users are there, just some random number. So all the users need to accept that, yes, this is the correct valid block and the hashing algorithm is correct. Whatever the transaction is added is valid. Now the block can be added, right? So that yes should come from the majority of the people. Then only the block will be added to the blockchain. That is called as consensus. So without consensus mechanism, even if you take a public or private or permissionless or permissioned blockchain, all right, the blockchain mechanism will not work. Number one. So number two, we all know, right? There is something called what is a protocol. Protocol is a generally accepted rules or procedures, right? So we combine this concept and we call it as a consensus protocol. So in the consensus protocol, right, it is agreed by the opinion of all the peoples are here, and as well as we have a certain set of protocol to be agreed by all the parties. Will you go for a consensus for each and everything? The answer is no. The rules are concerned, right? For a Bitcoin, there are set of rule, all right, and Ethereum, there are set of rule. Or if you go for a Kcash that professor was talking, it has its own set of rule. If you go for a Ripple, it has its own set of rule. Like this, each and every blockchain type, each and every cryptocurrency has its own types of rule. That is called as protocol. So we have a consensus mechanism, right? Voting mechanism as well as the rule protocol being used in the blockchain. So why we use the consensus mechanism and what will happen if you are not using it, right? So the thing is, as you know, right, we discussed about the hashing. We discussed about hashing, right? And we also discussed about the mining process, right? We need to create a hash which should be lesser than the already agreed hash value, right? So all of you, please go on mute. Geetu Mary George, please go on mute. So we have a problem is nothing but the hashing problem. So once the hashing problem is solved, the consensus algorithm check whether it is really solved and that is a valid block. So the valid block approval comes from the consensus mechanism. So we discussed about multiple the consensus mechanism in the morning. One of the things which is very frequently used is proof of work, right? So we will be discussing about that shortly. But what is the objective of the consensus protocol? Number one is a unified agreement, right? So here there is no centralized party like a bank. We have the check is correct. That is my own check and I have signatured it. This is my own signature. This is my own photo. All of you, please go on mute. Dr. Padmavati, please mute, please. Okay, thank you. Dr. Padmavati, please go on mute. Thank you. So, unified agreement. In order to go for an unified agreement, we go for a consensus protocol, right? Majority of the party or most of the party should agree for a solution. So another thing is this consensus mechanism ensure that fault tolerant, meaning the fault blockage, the blocks are not added wrongly to the blocks, meaning the wrong blocks are not getting added to the blockchain. Sometimes, the miners, all of you, please go on mute. Geetu Mary George, madam, please go on mute. Please go on mute, ma'am, please. Thank you. So wrong blocks should not be added to the blockchain, right? For that also, we go for the consensus protocol. Yes. And the third one is a collaborative and participatory. The thing is, as professor was telling, right, when you have the decentralized mechanism, the whole decentralized mechanism runs with the help of the people, right? So when it runs with the help of the people participation is very, very important, right? So we need to ensure that each and every node takes part in that particular network, each and every decision. That participatory decision is possible only through this consensus mechanism, right? For that also, we go for this, we have this consensus protocol. Of course, not when I say individual node, I'm talking about the individual computers. The computers are called as a node, right? We are not talking about the individual people, right? So then another one is egalitarian. You all know, right? What is egalitarian means? I want to give the blockchain wants to give the uniform opportunity to all of the people. So if there are 100 people over here, all the 100 people should be given uniform opportunity to take part in the participation. When I say take part in the participation means reading the blockchain, all should be given opportunity, right? Writing a blockchain, all should be given, right? Even the modifying, of course, it's not possible, but still you want to add something, still the equal opportunity. So morning we discussed about the poor versus rich, right? So those kind of, you cannot say that I have a supercomputer, you have a less computer, right? Or those kind of things, distinction should not be there. I want to give equal opportunity for everybody, right? For that also we go for a consensus mechanism. On the last, but I mean, the one thing is very important is incentivization. So incentivization is when the people take part, when somebody acts as a miner, right, and somebody solves the problem, right? I need to give a incentivization, some Bitcoin, some Ether coin, ETH, BTC, or something I need to give, so that the people will come forward and take part. Right. In fact, there are a lot of miners as far as the Bitcoin is concerned. In fact, they also pool each other. Meaning, let's say that all 100 of us decided to be a miner. So, right, rather than computing with each and every one of you have a computer, rather we combine the power of each and every computer. Right, serial connections, parallel connections. I am sure that all the people knows about it. Right. So thereby getting a highest power out of the system, and then we will try to see that is the mining is easily possible or not. So that is why it is called as a pooling. Right. So however, right, there are a lot of people goes for a pooling and they create a system to go for mining and they write the software for the mining, right? All those things happens because of the incentivization. In fact, we get a very good incentivization if we are able to do a mining as far as the Bitcoin is concerned, right? So for that also we go for a consensus mechanism. And the lot, but not the least, preventing the double spending. See, what is double spending? It's very simple concepts which we keep on repeating, right? Say if what A giving the money to digital money to party B, and the same digital money can be given to the party C also, right? Digitally it is possible, right? Maybe physical thing it may not be possible, but yes, we are going for a digital, so we need to avoid double spending. And double spending also playing with somebody's money also. See, that is what the problem with the whole financial system, right? We discussed it in the morning, right? You give the money to the bank in the savings bank, and savings bank's account, the money goes to the loan people. People take the loan and invest in the real estate. On the real estate, actually, you sell it out and you are investing in the IT industry and so on. The money keeps on rotating. Of course, you all know that money keeps on rotating, then only the value comes. There is no doubt about it. But the problem is one depend on the other, right? So if one party take a risk, no problem. Two party, three party, all involved in the supply chain takes a risk, right? So then the risk impact will be higher. That resulted in the meltdown. So that kind of mechanism can be avoided, right? The risk over one party over the other, one node over the other, using the consensus mechanism. So because of all these reasons, right, we go for a consensus mechanism, unified agreement, fault tolerant system, collaborative and participatory people, right, and egalitarian and incentivization, and we are also trying to prevent the double spending. And so we go for a consensus mechanism. Consensus mechanism again is nothing but a kind of a software, right? And I'm trying to explain. I took some random 7 consensus algorithm. I try to explain it over here. The first one is very famous, and in fact a very early stage also in 2019, right? Our own Satoshi Nakamoto, while you are coining the Bitcoin with the blockchain technology, he actually formed this proof of work. In fact, one of the mining mechanism, right? What we try to explain you, right, in the earlier session, right? Creating a hash and trying to solve the hash and create one more hash that value is lesser than the target hash, right? That is nothing but the hashing mechanism. So that is the proof for the work, number one. So I created a hash from all the thing, including the timestamping, including the nodes, right? The timestamp also every second, right, keeps on changing, nanoseconds keeps on changing. And with that only I'm creating a hash. And that hash value is lesser than the target hash. So that is my proof of work. So that was introduced in 2009 by the Satoshi Nakamoto himself. And the objective of introducing this proof of work is actually the moving from the centralization to the decentralization. So the proof of work algorithm is a very famous one, and now we have a lots and lots of consensus mechanism in the market, right? Some examples are already there. We'll also look into some more example, right? And first it got introduced in the Bitcoin. We all know that Bitcoin is a public permissionless blockchain, right? Public permissionless blockchain, Bitcoin. In that one, we use the consensus. So I am repeating, right? In the morning, somebody asked the question, right? What kind of consensus mechanism is being used in the public permissionless? The first example is proof of work, right? What is the advantages of this, right? Number one, doing the work is not so easy. So mathematically, right? People ask the question. I told, right? Create a hash, create a change the random number, and but you know what is the difficulty, right? The timestamps keeps on changing, right? And it's each and every small changes. We have a different hash. That hash value most of the time will be greater than the target hash value. You remember we also discussed about difficulty. So the Bitcoin network team, right? They also increase the difficulty over a period of time. So I need to showcase the proof, right? And then the miner does the work, showcase the proof to all the people in fact, and thereby they are declared as a winner. So this is a very famous one. In fact, this is also most frequently used consensus mechanism out of all, right? So we already discussed the concept of miners. Here they use the concept of cryptographic hash. I'm sure now you have familiarized with what is caching, right? So that cryptographic hash, and it is not just a hash alone, by the way, as somebody else asked in the morning, right? We also use the public key and private key mechanism also along with the hash. That is why it's called as cryptographic hash. And please understand which is difficult, which is easy here. The solving the puzzle is very difficult. So even if you combine the miners, if you combine the power of the computer, even if you combine the network speed, internet speed, right? But still, the mechanism is set in such a way that solving the puzzle, right, is very difficult. But however, from the node perspective, right, from all other nodes perspective, the end user's perspective, checking whether a person has solved the puzzle or not, that algorithm is very easy. Why? Because it should happen in a fraction of a second. Right? Miners can take minutes to solve the problem, but the checkers, right, the verifiers, all the end users, end node should be in a position to check that particular hashing or the work is correct or not. Right? The same thing applicable for our organization also, right? Doing the work may be very difficult in an organization, but the person who is doing the appraisal, right, he should be in a position to judge the work as really happened and it yielded the results. So that kind of thing is over here also we are using is, and of course it is very time consuming. Why time consuming? The thing is solving the hassle is very difficult. As I told you that poor versus rich, that thing is moved out from the system, and any powerful thing also getting moved out. You can use any mechanism to beat the system. So far, at least until now, confidently, that is taking a lot of time. Right? We'll discuss about what do you mean by time consuming. Is it a minutes or hours or it is second? We'll discuss it shortly. And it takes a lot of high energy. So the time consuming and high energy is always the problem as far as the proof of work is concerned. In spite of that, proof of work is being used in the very famous permissionless public blockchain, and most of the blockchains are using it because of the easiness of the checking of the work, right? So that is called. See, I am going to talk only about the principle over here. In fact, there are a lot of algorithms behind the proof of work, right? So now we are not discussing about the algorithm here, right? We are just going to discuss the concepts, who created it, when they created it, what is the purpose, and where it is being used, right? So the first consensus mechanism is proof of work, and there is a problem with the 51% attack. Okay, okay. What is 51% of attack means? Please understand. We have a n number of nodes. Let's say we have 10 nodes hypothetically. So the attackers is more than 5. Let's say there are 6 attackers. The 6 attackers can come and say that so and so work is good. So this is happening in the organization also, right? Sometimes, you know, if your managers are very poor and the person who is not doing the work will be recognized a lot, right? You may be wondering how come. because that is what it is called. The same thing happening in the blockchain also. That is called as 51% attack. The majority of the nodes, they join hands together and they are trying to beat the system, right? They want their associate people's work to be recognized. I'm talking about the blockchain here, right? So they will say, yes, this is good and this person's work is good, even though it is wrong, right? So we are completely depending on the consensus mechanism here, but the people, the nodes join the hand, and that is called as 51% attack, meaning more than 50% of the people become corrupted, the system gets corrupted. Same thing is applicable for the organization. Same thing is applicable for political arena also, right? So this is actually the problem. We are going with the decentralization, but this is a known problem. But the thing is, getting the 51% of the system corrupted, right? It's very, very difficult. As soon as the node is getting corrupted, the system is written in such a way that the node themselves will make it up, and all the corrections will happen automatically. So doing the corruption in a good system is very, very difficult. Hope all of you will agree, right? The system will ensure that corruption is taken over or it is being corrected. They assume that somebody does a mistake, okay, let me correct it, right? So if you keep on correcting it, so it's very difficult to do being a corruption. But in spite of that, if you have some mechanism making the more than 51% of the node as corrupted, then the entire things comes into your hand. The consensus mechanism itself falls down. So proof of work fails when more than 51% of the nodes are corrupted. Okay, so we are going to the next consensus mechanism, right? That is called as proof of elapsed time. We call it as a POET. Very catchy name, right? POET means proof of elapsed time. That is got introduced very recently, right? 4 years before 2016 by Intel. Until 2000, this thing, right? Proof of work was very famous, but proof of elapsed time is also getting very famous. See, why it become? What is the distinction between proof of work and the proof of elapsed time? Here we have a timeline is set here. Particularly here we are using it for a permissioned blockchain, right? I hope you are able to connect with what we discussed in the morning, right? And I mean the earlier session with this, right? Previous one was used in the Bitcoin kind of thing, permissionless. When you go for a permissioned, so you know what is permission, right? I know I give the authority to somebody else. Some user ID password I create it, I give it to somebody. So whoever is logging using that user ID password, they are actually permissioned people. Since I permissioned who needs to be the miner, why should I give a lot of tests to them? It's like you can even say that it is like going with a management quota in a college, right? So so I permission them to join it. So there is no problem, and there is no need for going with giving some kind of a test for them or a tough test for them, I'll say. But very important, right? While you are making a people joining in a management quota, the time is very important, right? So beyond a limit, if somebody comes even in the management quota, you will not let them to join, right? So this permission, proof of elapsed time is nothing but similar to the allowing the people in a management quota. So what is the meaning of that actually? It's going with a lottery kind of system. What is lottery? Who can join in a management system? Who can join as a miner? Everybody is allowed to join the system because everybody is your own people, right? They all have the money. They all know people. That is why you use it for permissioning. So we go for a lottery. So what lottery does actually, they created some random waiting time to all the people. Random waiting time to all the people, right? Say, let's say the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 people. Each got, one is written by one person got number 1, another person got 2, another person. This is a random number. Need not be in the order. I'm just telling you for the understanding purpose. Now, whoever got a lesser time, they will be awarded. Shorter time will be awarded, and they will be given permission first to add it as a block. So every time a new block is added, right? So whoever wants to add it, I will create a random number for them. And whoever get a lesser random number, we call it as a random waiting time. And after that waiting time is lapsed, they will get added. See, for example, we'll say 2 seconds you get it. After 2 seconds, the person who got 2 will be allowed to add. After 3 seconds, the another person will be allowed to add it. After 4 seconds, the other person who got it. So basically, it's a lottery, it's a random. So it is added for each and every block. right? It's not for a continuous block. This keeps on continuously going. So who is getting a shorter time, they are allowed to add. Now here the problem is the system is allowed for a vulnerable. What is vulnerability here? So the system is not as secured as the earlier one. That is proof of work, right? There we put a lot of conditions, lot of nonce, lot of check, lot of hashing, all those things. Here we put just a random number. So once a node, right? For example, I know what is a random number, I'm continuously getting it. I'll try to tweak the data, right? I'm talking about within the node, within the miner, right? People may tweak the data and then they may, the system may get vulnerable and I may pretend as if I got the lowest number. That is always possible, right? So the system, this kind of consensus mechanism is vulnerable, but still the famous Hyperledger sawtooth, it is one of the thing from IBM, right, that uses proof of elapsed time because it is very quick. That is very important, right? So there is no, it will not take a longer time to create it or to go for a consensus mechanism. So simply random number is generated and whoever is getting lesser number after that much seconds, they will be allowed to add their own block to the system. But yes, it is a vulnerable, no doubt. But because of it is so easy, people will go for it. Particularly Hyperledger Sawtooth is one of the blockchain, right? They go for it. So we have a proof of work, we have a proof of elapsed time. Now the next one is proof of stake. In fact, you all know, right? Let's say that I want to, nowadays they don't go for it. I want to create an account, SB account in a bank. They always go for a reference, right? Because in later point of time, they removed that reference also. Anybody can go and do it as long as you give the proof in the bank, right? But however, yeah, in the bank, actually, the reference, whoever is already having an account, if they give reference and you can create your own account, right? It is easy for you to create an account. So there is no need for the bank to come and check the background check of you. So for example, I have an account in HDFC Bank. Let's say, I'm just telling an example, right? An example of the bank, nothing to do with HDFC. So if I give a reference to you that since I have an account, I am a reputed person, I have an account. So it is considered that you are also a reputed person and you are allowed to create an account, right? So there is, it reduces a lot of I'll say background check by the banks. So there is no need for you for them, HDFC Bank, right, to go and check your background or your real genuine user. Why are you creating an SB account, right? Why are you creating a loan account? All those things. The background check is not required if you go for a this kind of a check, right? Reference check. Same thing is applicable in the proof of stake algorithm. So proof of stake algorithm came in the year 2012. Again, all the revolutions in the blockchain technology happened in 2009 to until today, right? Very recently, 2012, for a Peercoin and Ethereum, they are using proof of stake, right? And right now the stake versus corruption, very important, right? What is stake versus corruption? For example, in your bank, I have a lot of money. Okay, forget about infinite money. Okay, infinite money is not possible. I'm just telling you. Okay, whoever you take it out, all the account in a particular branch. I am the highest money holder in that particular branch. Let's say I don't want the money to get thefted or that bank to be corrupted. You know why? Because my money is at stake, right? So I have a larger money stake in that bank. Since I have a stake in that bank, I will not let that, I myself will not go and corrupt it, number one, or I will not let somebody else to corrupt the banking system, particularly of that bank, that branch, right? The same thing is being used here. That is called as stake versus corruptions. If you have a more stake and you will be a good person, assume to be a good person, and you will not let the corruption to happen. So when I have a lot of Bitcoin in a Bitcoin world, right? So I have a highest stake. So all the Bitcoin is mine, whatever I have a stake. So I don't want to lose it. So I don't want the corruptions to happen. I don't want to beat the system. So what I'll do, I'll always do the good thing to the system. Right? So that is why somebody will took me as a random selection for a reference. Right? So let's say that 10 people are having a highest stake. The bank will ask us to check it, whether that particular person is right person or not. Particular node here is the right node or not. Of course, the software will do it, but randomly I'll get selected. right, by the system that you have the highest stake. Now, can you please go and check and let me know that particular block is the right block or not? Now, very important. That depends how much validations or how much power I have within the bank. That depends on how much stake I have. Right? Say that the whole bank I have a 10% stake. I think we all know what is a stake, right? The whole bank is having 1,000 rupees. I have a 100 rupees. That means I have a 10% stake in the bank, right? So then 10% of the transaction will come to me as a validation. Simply put it, I have a 100% stake in a bank. All the 100 validation, all the validations will come to me. 100% of the validations, right? Now I have a 10% stake. So 10% of the transaction will come to me with a validation. So each and every node, whenever it's getting added, meaning the block getting added to the blockchain, it will come to me for the consensus. So if I say yes, this particular block is unique, then that block will be allowed to add it to the blockchain. So it will not go for all the nodes, right? Now we ask the question, will it take a lesser energy or more energy? It will take a very lesser energy because nothing that to prove. Everybody know who is the highest stake, right? But please understand, I will also be given a paid transaction fees. It's not that I'll do it for free references, correct? Let's say that you are referring to somebody in a bank, assuming that you are getting a money, right? And yes, you are right. POS is not get implemented. It's still on the court due to various reasons. It is getting delayed. Yeah. So you're also getting the paid transaction fees. That is why I want to increase the stake. Once I increase the stake, I will become a validator. Once I become the validator, more transaction will come for verification. More transaction will come for verification. I will get more money, even for transaction check. So let's say that a person is sending 100 rupees to somebody, and let's say that you are giving me a transaction fees also. Now, very important, listen here. I will be in a position to add your transaction if the transaction fees is higher. Right? You see, in the bank, it's always go for a fixed percentage, right? But here it is not like that. Let's say that I want to give a money to somebody. I put some money as a transaction fees. So wherever the transaction fees is higher, I will go and refer them. Let's say there are 10 transactions. First transaction is ready to give me, right? We have a time, and according to the time, the decision is taken, right? So they give some random timeline allotted to each and every people, and whoever is getting the lower time slot, they will be given an opportunity to add, right? So when it comes to the proof of stake, right? So here, depending on the stakes what I have, let's say that I have a lot of money in the Bitcoin industry, right? So I will not let the system to go down. So I will be given an authorization to allow the transaction or the blocks to be added to the blockchain. It got introduced in the year 2012 for a Peercoin and Ethereum. In fact, as somebody told, it's not added in the Ethereum. Still, it's started running in the POW only. It's not running in the POS. Due to various reasons, they are not moving. But soon it will get moved. The Ethereum blockchain will be moving to POS. To stake, I will not let the bank to get corrupted, right? So that is why, according to the stake, I will be given an opportunity. If I have a 10% stake, percentage of the transaction. So 10% stake means I will 10% validation on the system. So comparatively, this system will go with the lesser energy, right? And very importantly, we go with the paid transaction fees. So what is paid transaction fees? For verification, I will be given the money. So when I'm being given the money for the verification, whoever is ready to give me higher transaction, for example, let's say the Bitcoin, another person, and how much that A is ready to give it to me in a proof of stake. If that person is ready to give me higher fees, right, then I will go for it. I will go for the transaction. That is called as proof of stake, right? So here the money, the transaction fees plays a crucial role. And another thing is, since the transaction fees is higher, I go for it, right? There is a centralized risk. You remember, right? We moved away from centralized. But in the proof of stake, what will happen? Some kind of a centralization comes into the picture. The people who are going for a higher stake, right? Who are having higher stake, trying to, if, of course, right? In all the banks in before independence, right? They're all privatized. It was privatized, right? So it will be in the hand of people who are having highest stake. But when it's moved to the public, we moved away from it. Similarly here, right, in the proof of stake algorithm, the people who are having highest stake, they try to play around. Why the risk is for the proof of right. So then we'll go for another mechanism called as DPoS. DPoS stands for Delegated Proof of Stake. In the delegated proof of stake, please understand it is like let's say that those days now we have a lot of landlords, right? They will appoint somebody else to do the work. Same like here, the people who has the highest stake, they will appoint somebody called as a witness. So a highest stake people has the power to choose the delegate, right? They call it as a witness. Now witness will say yes or no, right? Rather than previously the stake will say yes or no, right? Here the witness. Now, for example, I may be a node, I may not have a highest stake, but I am being appointed by some other people as a witness. So I will go and give a witness. No, even right? Nowadays we have whenever the transaction happens, even by or buying a land, right? There are 2 witnesses given for any transaction, correct? Even in the registration office, they ask for it witness. Same thing over here, the same kind of principles here. But here, the stake people is giving the power to the witness, and accordingly, the decision is taken. Again, please understand the stake versus corruption, right? That problem is still there. Meaning that advantages of that is there. The people being highest stake, I actually reduced it. In the delegated proof of stake, right? The witness takes all the call what was taken by the highest stake people in the previous one. Again, it is a less energy. Again, the witness is given the transaction fees here. Please understand, the transaction fees given is distributed between the witness and the highest stake people here. And here also, the risk of 51% attack is there. And the witness is given as a commission over here on the transaction fees. Of course, the commission will not be given. All the 100% of fees will not be given to the witness, right? And some fees definitely will be taken over by the highest stake people. So witness get the commissions for doing his job. Again, 51% attack is there. That problem is there. BitShare is an example. BitShare is another currency which we are using the delegated proof of stake. Again, it uses a very less energy, right? And there is one more Bitcoin is there called as a LISK, LISK, and that also uses this mechanism. Okay, and next one is we'll go with the proof of authority, right? It is almost similar to delegated proof of stake, right? So in the delegated proof of stake, what will happen? What happened? Now this is called as in the proof of authority. What happens actually? It is very similar to the delegated proof of stake. In the delegated proof of stake, what happened? The witness become the authority, correct? But here, rather than going with the stake and then stake nominate the witness, right? The straightaway validators are being appointed, right? So we should be have a stake and then they have the transaction fees, and then the transaction fees is getting adjusted between the witness and the stake people, and because of that the corruption also starts and people trying to attack it, the system also, particularly if not the stake people, the witness people try to do, right? And that created the more problem. Now here we have the validator differently appointed straight away by the system that got introduced in 2017. This is very good applicability. This particular consensus mechanism is applicable in a complete private blockchain because the private people can appoint the validators, right? So here the identity is verifiable and it is very public. Whereas in the previous mechanism, right, proof of stake or delegated proof of stake, we will not know who is the stake and who is the witness. But here the validators are very known to everybody and their ID is completely verified. So I know who is my validator, right? Please understand here, if that validator is not doing the job properly or he is trying to do something, the reputation is at stake. Meaning the validator cannot do corruption work here. They can do only the validation work. There are systems put in such a way that they cannot do any malpractices. If they do the malpractices, then they will be immediately get caught. That is how the system is written. So their reputation is at stake. The validators' reputation at stake, as well as the proof of authority is right. And the number of validators, we are also limiting to only 25 or less. How big your system may be? Let's say you have a blockchain. We are talking about the private blockchain here, right? So let's say lakhs of blocks are coming for the validation, but still the number of validators are always limited to 25% or 25 or less number. Why 25 or less? Actually, if you have a lot of validators, again it also leads to the corruption, right? They may indulge in the malpractices. They may unnecessarily approve some blocks, right, which are not without any verification, right? Or they can add their own block maliciously. So all these things can be avoided by limiting the number of validators. So here we have a 25 or lesser validators are there, but again their reputation is stake. They always should know, right? Very important thing is re-verification not done once it is approved. Because of the time crunch, what we do, if the validator say this person is the right person, this block is the right block, right away go and add it to the blocks. We will not do the re-verification once it is approved, because the consensus mechanism, proof of authority, completely dependent on the authority. It's similar to the police, right? If the police say that he is not a thief, he is not a thief. If the police say that person is a thief, that person is a thief. Similar way here, the validator says that, right? And this block is the right block, and that's it. No, that is he is the final authority, and re-verification usually not done once it is approved. Even if one validator is approved it, that is getting approved. So even all the 25 need not approve a single block, right? Each one of them independent authority, and their work is also very in the public. So that is very important. So each and every people will go and ensure that the basic things are there, and accordingly they take a call. This is the fifth consensus mechanism, very famous consensus mechanism, right? And Ripple, I think morning also we discussed, right? While you're discussing about different types of blockchain, right? The other end of the Bitcoin, right? We have something full, right? That is nothing but a public and then permission. So the best example of a public permission blockchain is Ripple. So in Ripple, we go for a proof of authority, right? So private also we use, particularly the private also we use this proof of authority mechanism, because you are being allowed to verify somebody, verify the blocks. Okay. So we will move on to the next consensus mechanism, famous, that is called as practical Byzantine fault tolerance algorithm, PBFT. That's the name, right? So here, what is PBFT? We have multiple servers to verify the validity. Multiple servers. Please understand, this PBFT thing is not new. In fact, this was there from 1999. The concept of blockchain and all came very recently, right? 2009. But this algorithm is there from 1999, and particularly the MIT lab uses it. It actually it says that only the vote of accept or reject, right? So there are a lot of validation servers will be there. If based on the different thing, it will accept it or reject. For example, the client will propose something, right? Whatever the client proposes, it will be either accepted by the server or rejected by the server. There will be multiple servers in the systems, right? Here, very important. There are multiple servers are there, right? Malicious nodes cannot exceed 1/3 of the node. If they exceed 1/3, what 1/3, right? Is nothing but plurality in the voting, right? So none of them will get now authority to. So when the malicious nodes cannot exceed 1/3 of the node, then only this PBFT will work, right? If that goes beyond 1/3, then the entire system will get corrupted if you use this consensus mechanism, right? And here we have three roles for any node, right? Any participatory people are called as a nodes. We have a general node, we have a leader node, right? And we have a appointer node also. In fact, we have a candidate node also, right? Please understand, the leader are getting selected at random. We are talking about the server right here. The servers are nothing but the leaders. It's not that leader means somebody Now in the client, it's not like a client server mechanism. Everybody is a node here, right? But leaders are selected at the random. So that leaders verify the thing. All right. So here, please understand. So one person can be a client, another person can be a leader. So client says that, okay, this is to be accepted. Then leader also should say that it is accepted. Both client and leader talk with each other and take a final decision. If the final decision is then the block is accepted. If the final decision is rejected, then the block is rejected. And the server also, the leader also will talk to each other. The server also will talk to each other. It's like, and sometimes in the organization, we have the appraisal done by multiple departments, right? It's not taken by one single, right? So those kind of things, this ensures that the decision does not go wrong, right? But again here, again, the 1/3 of the algorithm, if it goes against it, the system may fail, right? So we go with the agreement of the majority in the leader. So client talk with each other, leader talk with each other. Again, the 1/3 of the decision is corrupted, the system corrupts it. We also go with the majority. So agreement with the majority, the decision is taken to add the blocks. Again, of course, the software does it, no doubt about it, but the logic is different, right? And please understand, this kind of thing will work only the small size chain group. Why small size? Because you see that now there are multiple people talking with each other, right? You have multiple leader selected in. We show only one client. So there will be multiple talk. You see the multiple arrows are coming, assuming each arrow is a signal kind of thing, right? So it will work. The PBFT as a consensus mechanism will work only with the small group size. If that group size increases or the number of nodes increases, it's very difficult, right? And it will not work. And it will take a lot of time. The system may even hang, right? And it also leads to the Sybil attack. What is Sybil attack here? The client also may act as a server. Server may also act as a customer, right? So the malicious node will act as a good node. You will not know the difference between who is a good and who is a bad, right? And malpractices will occur because you have a small node only, right? That is the biggest problem. See, if you have thousands and lakhs of nodes, and out of that 100 nodes behaving maliciously, the system can overcome it. But you yourself is having only, let's say, 10 nodes. Out of the 10 node, right? Majority of the people try to maliciously behave, purposefully behave, let's say nodes, right? In order to take the stake on the blockchain. Then it is very difficult. That is actually called a Sybil attack. So in the this particular PBFT, when you are being used, you are prone to the Sybil attack. So you need to overcome it, right? And we are moving to the next type of consensus mechanism. Here we have a RAFT, R-A-F-T. It's a name. So only leader can communicate to other nodes. Whereas in the previous, right, node will communicate to each other, leader will communicate to each other, and leader also will communicate with the leader. There are multiple transactions, multiple communications occurred in order to take a call. But here, only leader communicate to the other leaders, other nodes. So nodes can communicate to the leader. That's it. They need to stop. And then from then onwards, leader will send anything. So broadcasting will be done by the leader. Then accordingly, the decision will be taken. All right, that is called as RAFT algorithm. So in fact, it is actually, there are 3 roles are here: leader, follower, and the candidate. So candidates are the nodes which are willing to be a leader. Of course, please understand that there will be a transaction fees and commission will be given for a leader and the candidate also, right? So without that, people will not come forward to do this. So there is a leader, candidate. So leader was also selected based on some kind of algorithm. So particularly here we use a timer elects the leader for a random period. Let's say first 10 minutes, node 1 will be the leader. Second 10 minutes, node 2 will be the leader. It's like, chief minister is getting elected every 5 years. Or we select MLA every 5 years or 4 years, right? Same thing over here. So for a time period, select the leader. Then the leader become a follower. This is very important, right? So the leader is not becoming a follower. If you act as only as a leader, then that is a problem with the RAFT. So at any point of time, once the leader become a follower, he needs to take care of the other role. That is very important, right? So if you always act as a leader, if you always communicate, then the system will get corrupted. That's a problem with the RAFT mechanism, right? And in the case of Raft mechanism, the majority vote, right? Here also the leader only will talk, but the majority wins the election. And please understand, and the whole follower will follow the heartbeat of the leader. Same thing as we are electing our own leader through elections, right? Prime Minister or Chief Ministers, right? So whatever the Prime Minister says, followers will follow. Whatever the leader says, here the followers will follow. Heartbeat from a leader will always be used by the node. If node says that do it, it will be done. If the leader says that no, reject it, reject it. So leader takes a call. Can there be multiple leaders? Yes, that is allowed. But the leaders also selected at random by the system for a particular time, right? And the quorum is one of the one of the blockchain that uses this kind of the consensus algorithm. Now, these are all some of the things I thought of choosing the consensus based on different parameters, right? And definitely, it will give you a whole idea about a view of different types of the consensus mechanism. Now, when you are considering your own blockchain, right? What kind of evaluation criteria you need to use for the consensus algorithm, right? Yeah. So the first one is algorithm throughput. What do you mean by algorithm throughput? How much of the transaction per second can be added into the block? How much of the transaction can be added per second into the block? In fact, you will all know, right? I will also show the number later, maybe in the next slide. The Bitcoin for one transaction will take around 10 minutes of the time. Every 10 minutes only the transaction happens, because there are so many algorithms runs within the system, and particularly the proof of work we discussed, right? And it is not so easy, even though it is a 10 minutes on transaction, then there are a lot of competitions for it, right? Adding it is very, very difficult, even in a sub period. So that is called as transactions per second, right? And verification time. How much time you can take it for the verification? Accordingly, the consensus mechanism will get added, right? Of course, we told verification is easy, but each consensus has its own time for the verification. So the reputation is higher, meaning the check is taking a lot of time. So if check is done quickly, then anybody can do it, no? So the reputation is lower. So and vice versa, we need to balance in between. And also the block size. If you remember, we discussed that I think the Bitcoin versus Ethereum, right? Bitcoin was showing as a 2 MB is the block size. We cannot exceed beyond 2 MB, right? And so based on the block size also, we select the consensus algorithm. That is called as algorithm throughput, right? Another one is profitability of the mining. So the mining is there, how much money the miners will gain. That is also based on that also the consensus mechanism is chosen, right? How much is the mining reward, right? And Bitcoin actually, if I'm right, they started with 50 Bitcoin in the earlier, 50 or 60. And then they reduced it by two every 4 years, they try to divide it by 2, right? Some mechanism is there. So that is called as a mining reward. And how much of the power consumption for each and every consensus mechanism. And based on that also you choose it. How much is the transaction fees? I told you, right, in the delegated proof of stake and in the proof of stake, the transaction fee should be higher. Meaning, if the transaction fee is higher, then only that will be approved by the that particular verifier, right? The stake people. So that is also need to be considered. And is there any special hardware dependencies there for running a consensus mechanism? Consensus is also a software, right? We need a special kind of software required for running an algorithm. That is also being considered. So that is called as profitability of the mining, running everything in the consensus. On the third, decentralization. Based on that also we choose different kinds of the consensus mechanism. What is the kind of blockchain governance you should have? What kind of permission model? If you remember, right, we discussed about some consensus algorithm, we say it will work in the permissionless. Some consensus mechanism, we say a private, right? So that combinations, what is that? That is also called as trust model. Based on that, you can choose. Last but not least, security and vulnerabilities. Because of the consensus mechanism, right? The security and vulnerabilities are getting added to the system, right? How much of those you want to do it? If you want a very smaller consensus mechanism, it is more prone to the vulnerability. If you have a very good consensus mechanism, The security will be higher, but it will take a lot of time. So 51% attack, are you ready to face it? Triple attack, are you ready to face it? Double spending attack, are you ready to face it? Which one you want to solve? Each of the concerns mechanism will solve any one of this. So based on the security and vulnerability. So these are all the four broader majority of the criteria. All right. Based on that, we choose the particular consensus algorithm. Right. Slides are not visible. Are you able to see the slide? No. Doctor, are you not able to see the slide now? Yeah. Then, yeah, everybody say internet issue at your end. Don't know.
Yeah, your slides and video both are not visible to us.
Okay. What about others? Dinesh is saying it is visible.
Yeah,
Dr. Muhammad,
it is now visible.
okay, fine. Now we will use some other comparison for the. Maybe I will also remove my video, right? It takes some bandwidth. So we'll also compare different consensus algorithm in a quantitative fashion, right? So first one is you see the energy consumption. So energy consumption is very high, right? As far as the proof of work is concerned. There is one more consensus algorithm is there that is called as directed acrylic graph, DAG, right? We have not discussed it, but that consumes a very less consumption, very energy, right? And the transaction per second will take a 70 to 30 transaction per second is happening in the proof of work, right? And 180 to 7,000 transaction happens in the DAG, right? And the transaction fees is very higher for the proof of work. And the transaction fees is almost none in DAG. And structure, right? When you talk about the DPoS, right? Delegated proof of stake, it goes for a centralized kind of system. Otherwise, almost all the consensus mechanism are decentralized in nature, right? I'm sure you will be interested in the example. We had already discussed it. Proof of stake, I told Ethereum, right? Ethereum takes time to do it. Yes, they have the plan to move from POW to POS. Dash is another name of a coin, cryptocurrency, and that uses proof of stake. Bitcoin, proof of work, right? And BitShares uses delegated proof of stake. We discussed about Byzantine, right? Yeah. So Byzantine uses the Stellar uses the Byzantine fault tolerance, right? The DAG is using by IoT. So like this. So again, this is some sample again. So based on this multiple criteria, you need to choose a consensus mechanism. How much of the transaction fees people are willing? How much transaction per second is possible? See, nothing is like good or bad, right? Please understand the Bitcoin is a very famous. Still, it uses a proof of work. Proof of work, as for the algorithm is concerned, it is very simple to verify. But as I told you, it will take a lot of time. But still, even though we have evolved a lot over a period of time to go up to DAG kind of system, where the energy consumption is very, very low comparatively, and transaction goes from 30 transactions per second to 7,000 transactions per second, right? And those and all, but still, POW is famous and is being used by lots of system, right? And we are almost like at the end of the thing discussion. And I have one more table to compare some other thing, PBFT, and there is one more thing that's also called as a Raft consensus mechanism, right? So Byzantine fault tolerance can go up to 50%. That means if 51% of the system is corrupted, then Byzantine's POW or POS or DPoS will not work, right? And the GPFT is concerned, 33% of the systems are corrected, right? But there is a algorithm, there is a consensus mechanism called as a Raft mechanism, right? Raft actually overcome the Byzantine fault tolerance mechanism. Even most of the systems are corrupted, the leftover system will run, right? So cross fault tolerance is higher for it, and the verification speed, right? How much time will be taken by the node for the verification? That is 10 seconds for PBFT and Raft. Whereas the other thing, the probably take greater than 100 seconds, right? Less than 100 seconds or about 100 seconds for the pass and delegated proof of system, right? On throughput, just now we discussed about the throughput, right? How many transactions per second? So that is, you see that it goes greater than 10,000 in a raft consensus algorithm. So raft consensus mechanism is a costlier mechanism. You can do more than 10,000 transactions per second. That is why the scalability is weak. You remember the triangle what we discussed in our very first diagram, right? We go from centralized to decentralized, right? And then we talk about it. If it is a decentralized, what will happen? You want to go for a privacy, then the cost is a problem. If you go for a security, then scalability is the problem, right? This slide clearly indicates that, right? Scalability is very strong in the POW, but scalability is very, very low raft consensus is concerned. But please understand the security is higher. So which one you want to compromise in the centralization? Security or scalability? Privacy or the cost? And that also determine which consensus mechanism. So you go with what you want and you also go with what is there. That is why you see what we discussed in the earlier slide is, previous slide is what is there, the capacity of the consensus mechanism. Now in this slide we discuss about what is that you want to have. So both needs to be combined and accordingly you need to choose a mechanism. So you need to understand the list go on and on. In fact, we discussed about the DAG, right? Directed acrylic graph, and there are different things also there. That like a proof of capacity, proof of activity. So activity is different from the work, by the way. Okay. So you all know, right? The works are divided into activity, right? In the typical project management terminology, right? So what will happen, right? So in order to do the work, you have a n number of activity. Then each and every activity will get verified in order to do the work. So we don't just go and give the proof of the work, and here we go next level also, or you go and do, are you doing all the activity also? So you have the multiple activities are given in to do the work. See, for example, very simple. Let's say that you are living in the 10th floor of a building, right, in your house, and there is a motor there in the ground floor. You need to switch on. So switching on the motor is a work. Now, what are all the activities you need to do, right? I'm saying very layman's term, very simple. So you need to open your flat door. You need to close your flat door. If possible, you need to, lock it. Then go near the lift. You need to you need to press the lift button. And then once the lift comes, you need to open the lift, close the lift, then press the ground floor button, wait for it to go to the ground floor, again come out of the lift. So many activities you need to do, right? That is called as proof of activity, right? And another one is a proof of one. You know what is proof of one? They're not talking about doing a work or doing an activity. They're talking about how much effort you do to do something. You may not have succeeded, but you put an effort to do something, right? That's what in the organization people say, right? One thing is you do the work, you get an output, you get a customer appreciation. There are other people who put an effort to do some extraordinary innovative thing that may not be successful today. Maybe by down the line, second year or third year, it may give the result. That is called as proof of one. So those kind of consensus mechanism is also there. In addition to proof of importance, least proof of stake, anonymous. Because proof of stake is concerned, it's going for a centralized, right? In the proof of stake, anonymous POSA, we call it as a POSA, very easily to call. That will go for a completely centralized system. That is called as proof of stake. So like this, there are n number of consensus mechanism are there, right? So we need to understand the nuances of each and every consensus mechanism. More importantly, what do you want? And accordingly, we choose a consensus algorithm and we write the algorithm and we make the blockchain successful.